What I'm about to tell you might sound a little alarming, but trust me, you need to hear this before it's too late. Right now, multiple supply chain insiders are raising red flags about something big coming right after May 5th. I'm not here to spread fear. I'm here with real facts, facts that could protect you and your family. Think back to 2020 for a moment. Remember how store shelves went empty in just 72 hours? People were scrambling. Panic was everywhere. But this time, we have a chance to be smarter. For the past week, I've been diving deep, researching which specific grocery items will vanish first when the supply chain takes a hit. And I've narrowed it down to 6 essential items you absolutely need before May 5th. These aren't just nice-to-have products. These are the first to disappear when crisis strikes. This isn't panic buying, it's strategic prepping. And before we go any further, hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to hear might just be the most important video you watch all month. Let's get into it. Item number 1, long shelf life water. Now, this one might catch you off guard. Most people think, oh, I've got bottled water. I'm fine. But here's the truth. Regular bottled water starts to expire after about 1 to 2 years. The plastic breaks down over time, and what you're left with is something that tastes like chemical soup. Trust me, I made that mistake. I opened an old case last year, and it was completely undrinkable. It was like drinking plastic. But here's the real eye-opener. During the Texas power grid collapse, water became more valuable than gold. Families were melting snow in bathtubs just to flush toilets. My own cousin in Houston told me people were trading bottles of premium bourbon for clean water after just 3 days. Let that sink in. The University of Michigan says the average person needs at least 1 gallon of water per day, not just to drink, but for hygiene and cooking. That means if you've got a family of 4, you'll need at least 120 gallons just to get through a 30-day emergency. And yes, I thought that was overkill too, until I tracked how much water we use in a week. 1 gallon per person per day is actually cutting it close. Now here's what most experts aren't telling you. There are 2 brands of water that are absolute game changers: Aqua Blocks and Blue Can Water. These aren't your average plastic bottles. They come in aluminum cans with a 25 to 30-year shelf life. That's right, 30 years. They use the same technology NASA uses to store fluids in space. I'm not saying you need to prep for some end-of-the-world scenario. But wouldn't you rather have safe, clean water that doesn't expire after just a couple of hot summers in your closet? Here's one last powerful stat. According to FEMA's latest disaster report, within just 72 hours of a major water system failure, hospitals report a 400% increase in dehydration cases. And get this, most of those patients were healthy adults who just didn't think ahead. Don't be one of them. And no, when things go sideways, it's not the elderly or young kids who get hit first like you'd expect. It's often the healthy working adults who simply didn't prepare. I ordered a 2-month supply of long shelf life water just last week, and I was stunned to see a low stock warning flash on my screen. Curious, I called the company, and what they told me floored me. Orders have surged over 400% in the past month alone. Even more shocking, the customer service rep let something slip. They're planning to start limiting purchases next week. That's right. Purchase limits, and they haven't even announced it publicly yet. It's getting real fast. Now, when it comes to storing your water, this part is crucial. Don't keep it in your garage. Temperatures swing too wildly, and that can shorten shelf life. You want a cool, dark space, under beds, inside closets, even behind the couch, works perfectly. And here's a pro tip I learned the hard way. Don't keep all your water in one place. Spread it throughout your home. Why? Because if part of your house becomes inaccessible, like our basement did when it flooded last spring, you'll still have backup supplies elsewhere. This isn't about being paranoid, it's about being prepared. A Red Cross survey found that 60% of American families don't have enough clean water for even 3 days. That's a sobering number. One power outage at a water treatment facility, and suddenly entire neighborhoods lose access. Just look at Baltimore earlier this year. One failed pipe, and over 400,000 people were without clean water for nearly a week. It happens fast. My neighbor actually laughed when they saw me stocking up. That was until their pipes froze during the deep freeze last winter, and they were melting snow in a pot just to flush the toilet. You should have seen their face when I handed them 3 gallons of clean water, while the rest of the block was in survival mode. Listen to me carefully. Water isn't just priority number 1. It's priorities 1, 2, and 3. Now let's talk about item 2, shelf-stable protein sources. When supply chains break, the first food group to vanish is always protein. I lived through this during the 2020 panic when the meat section looked like a ghost town. My buddy Jim, he waited just 2 days too long to shop, and he ended up feeding his kids nothing but peanut butter for an entire week. That was literally all he could find. Don't be Jim. Here's something most people don't realize. Your body actually needs more protein during times of stress. A Stanford University study found that during high-stress periods, our bodies require up to 25% more protein just to maintain basic functions. So the moment things go south, your protein needs go up, and the supply goes down. I felt this myself during a power outage last winter. By the 3rd day, I was constantly hungry and just off. I was eating regular meals, but I felt drained, foggy, irritable. My body was literally craving protein to help me function. And forget about just tossing a few cans of tuna in your cart. That's beginner stuff. Last month, I spoke to 3 former military survival experts, and they all said the same thing. Tuna didn't even make their top 5 protein picks. The protein tips I'm about to share completely changed the way I approach emergency food storage. I used to grab whatever was on sale, mostly tuna. But after digging deeper, I realized I was missing out on better, cheaper, and more effective options. Here's one that shocked me: canned chicken. It gives you nearly double the protein per dollar compared to tuna. Seriously, check the labels next time you're at the store. A standard can of chicken costs about $2.89 and packs 32 grams of protein. And yes, it even tastes good cold if the power goes out. I keep a 24-pack in my basement, and it takes up way less space than you'd expect. Quick tip: go for the chunk-style variety. It mixes perfectly with those shelf-stable mayo packets you get from takeout places. Toss them together, and you've got a protein-packed meal that requires 0 heat. But here's the real game changer that survival experts are talking about right now: shelf-stable tofu. These little vacuum-sealed packs last up to 8 months without refrigeration. I was skeptical at first too. But after that Bloomberg report last week about upcoming soy shortages, they've been flying off store shelves. I gave a pack to my meat-loving brother, and even he had to admit it was a smart move. The teriyaki flavor, honestly, it tastes amazing straight from the pouch. And if you or someone in your family has dietary restrictions, don't overlook this weird-sounding but brilliant option: dehydrated bean flakes. I know, they don't sound glamorous, but today's versions are fortified with complete amino acid profiles, which means they give you all the essential protein your body needs. One $12 bag makes around 24 servings, and you just add hot water. My cousin, who has celiac disease, Relied on these during a hurricane evacuation when gluten-free options were basically non-existent at emergency shelters. Now here's something I bet you never thought about. Protein powder isn't just for bodybuilders anymore. Emergency-grade whey isolate powders have a 3-year shelf life, no cooking required, and right now at Costco, they cost about 87 cents per serving. That makes it the cheapest and most compact protein source you can stock. I mix mine with water in a shaker bottle, but here's a little hack. I also add it to soups, oatmeal, and even pancake mix for the kids. They don't taste the difference, but they're getting a serious protein boost. Last week, I spoke to a supply chain expert who didn't sugarcoat it. He told me, if trucks stop for just 4 days, protein sources will vanish. Not might. Will. That's not fear-mongering. That's just how modern grocery logistics work. Stores only keep minimal backstock and rely on daily deliveries. I've seen it firsthand in 3 separate emergencies. Protein is always the first to disappear. Don't wait until shelves are empty. The choices you make this week could decide how well your family eats in a crisis. And here's the best part. These aren't just doomsday rations. My family rotates through our supply all the time. Nothing goes to waste. Smart prepping doesn't mean hoarding. It just becomes part of your everyday life. Now let's move on to item 3, multi-purpose cooking oils. And trust me, this is one of the most overlooked essentials until it's too late. During the last crisis, cooking oil vanished from store shelves for nearly 3 months in some areas. Think about that for a second. No oil, no frying, no sautéing, not even basic meal prep. And if you think it was a one-time fluke, think again. According to a March report from Global Supply Chain Weekly, cooking oils are expected to face even worse shortages this time around. You might be thinking, it's just oil, I'll manage without it. Trust me, you won't. Try cooking literally anything for a week without oil. You'll realize real fast it's not optional. And here's the part that really got me. The average American household only has enough oil to last about 9 days. That's it. 9 days, and you're stuck boiling everything, if you even have water. Last week, I checked in with a manager at my local grocery store. He told me straight up, we're only getting half of what we order now. 3 major oil producers have already begun limiting shipments to retailers. The signs are clear, but most people won't realize it until it's too late. So, which oils should you actually get? I've done the digging and the testing, so you don't have to. And let me tell you, most of those fancy oils you're thinking of, total mistake for long-term prepping. First off, forget extra virgin olive oil. I used to love it, until mine turned rancid in just 6 months during the 2020 shortages. Total waste. It goes bad fast and won't survive long-term storage. Instead, go for refined coconut oil. Research published just this January in the Journal of Food Science shows it can last up to 5 years if stored right. That's not a typo. 5 years. And because it solidifies at room temperature, it won't leak or spoil as easily. I've had the same jar in my pantry for over 2 years, and it's still perfect. The second oil you absolutely need is avocado oil. It has the highest smoke point of any cooking oil, 520 degrees. That means you can use it for everything: frying, baking, roasting, you name it. I made the switch last year and haven't looked back. A friend of mine who's a professional chef told me it's the only oil she trusts now. Bonus, it's loaded with omega-3s and antioxidants, which your body desperately needs when you can't get fresh produce. But here's the kicker. These oils are useful beyond the kitchen. When my sister's power went out during a storm last year, she used coconut oil as a natural antibacterial ointment for cuts and scrapes. Worked better than some of the store-bought stuff. And the avocado oil? You can use it to condition leather, prevent cracking in your boots or gear, and even as an emergency fire starter. Just dip a cotton ball in it, and you've got a flame that burns for 5 full minutes. Plenty of time to get a real fire going. I've tested it myself. So how much should you stock? Emergency prep experts recommend 1 gallon of oil per person for a 3-month supply. I know that sounds like a lot, but remember, we're not just prepping for a weekend power outage. We could be facing weeks or even months of disruption. And here's something I learned the hard way. Coming in the next section, here's a pro tip nobody talks about, and it makes a huge difference. Don't buy one massive jug of cooking oil. Go for smaller containers, like 16-ounce bottles. Why? Because once you crack open a big container, all of it gets exposed to air, and that speeds up the spoilage. With smaller bottles, you only open what you need while the rest stays sealed and fresh. I personally keep about 8 of these 16-ounce bottles in rotation. And here's another mistake most people don't even realize they're making. Don't store your oils next to your stove. The heat and light will break them down way faster. Instead, tuck them away in a cool, dark spot. Pantry shelves, a basement cabinet, or even under the sink works great. Also, write the purchase date on each bottle with a permanent marker. It's a simple habit, but it keeps your system organized and makes it easy to rotate. When I go grocery shopping, I use the oldest bottle for cooking and slide the new one to the back of the shelf. It's low effort, but incredibly effective. Look, I'm not trying to cause panic, but don't wait on this one. Oil shortages hit hard and fast, and these multi-purpose oils could be worth their weight in gold if things get worse. Just last weekend, I noticed purchase limits on cooking oil at 2 different stores in my area. The warning signs are there. You just have to be paying attention. Now let's talk about something that goes hand in hand with these oils and might be the most underrated prep item on this entire list. Item 4. Versatile staple grains. Let me tell you something that shocked me last week. I was talking with a former grocery supply manager, and he told me that during the 2020 shortages, rice and pasta were gone within 48 hours. Just like that. But here's the wild part. The grains with better nutrition and longer shelf lives were barely touched. People rushed for what they knew and left behind literal gold mines of nutrition. And I'll be honest, I made that mistake myself. I ignored the grains nobody else was buying and later had to pay 3 times the normal price just to get the basics for my family. Don't be me. Here's the truth. Grains like quinoa, bulgur, and barley aren't just trendy health foods. They're survival powerhouses that emergency experts have been recommending for years. A March 2025 Cornell University study found that quinoa provides complete protein with all 9 essential amino acids your body can't produce on its own. That's huge, especially if meat or other protein sources are limited. Even more interesting, the study also showed that people who included these alternative grains in their diet had significantly higher energy levels during stressful times. That's exactly what your body needs if things get chaotic after May 5th. And here's your edge. Prices for these overlooked grains haven't spiked yet. Rice is already up 23% due to expected shortages. But when I checked 3 stores yesterday, bags of bulgur wheat were still at normal prices. My contact at a large distribution center warned me that their supply is already running low, so this window is closing fast. Next, I'll tell you exactly which grains to grab right now, before the shelves empty again. So, what should you actually grab? Here's the list. 5 pounds of quinoa, 3 pounds of bulgur wheat, and, if you can find it, 4 pounds of millet. That combo alone can feed a family of 4 for nearly 2 weeks in an emergency. Last Friday, I spoke with survival nutritionist Dr. Melissa Chang, and she confirmed it. Those exact amounts provide the ideal balance of carbohydrates and protein to help your body maintain energy and focus when things get rough. But there's one thing she really emphasized, and I've learned this the hard way too. How you store these grains is everything. If you leave them in the flimsy plastic bags they come in, you might as well kiss your investment goodbye. You must transfer them into airtight containers and store them away from heat and moisture. I ignored this advice once and came back to find my entire emergency rice stash crawling with weevils. I can't tell you how gross that was or how mad I was at myself. Don't make that mistake. And here's something that totally blew my mind. Buckwheat, which isn't technically a grain but acts like one, contains rutin, a compound that helps strengthen your blood vessels. That could be a game changer if medical help is hard to access. Nobody talks about this, but a February 2025 report in the Journal of Emergency Nutrition highlighted how overlooked nutrients like this become critical during long-term supply disruptions. There's more. These grains aren't just nutritious, they're efficient. They cook faster than rice, which is a huge deal when fuel and water are limited. During a 3-day power outage last winter, I was beyond thankful that I had buckwheat. It cooked in just 10 minutes on my camping stove. Meanwhile, my neighbor's rice took almost 40 minutes and used up half his fuel canister. I'll never forget the look on his face. Now, this is time sensitive. I checked with 2 major distributors this morning. Bulk orders of these grains are still shipping, but they're seeing unusually high order volumes. And that's always the first domino. My brother-in-law manages a regional grocery chain, and he texted me last night. Their wholesale suppliers have already started limiting store orders on these grains. That means consumer purchase limits are probably just days away. If you wait, you'll pay more. Or worse, miss your chance entirely. Now is the time to act. Get these grains while they're still affordable and available. Coming up next, Item 5, Powdered Essentials. This might be the single most important category in the entire video, and you'd be surprised how many people overlook it until it's too late. I recently spoke with a family who had to live off their emergency supplies after that massive flood in Nebraska. You know what they said they wished they had more of? Not water, not canned food, powdered milk and powdered eggs, and they're not alone. A recent survey of over 500 emergency preppers found that 78% ranked powdered dairy and egg products as their most used supplies during long home stays. That's not just a statistic, it's a serious wake-up call. Here's what's even more shocking. A March 2025 supply chain report confirmed that powdered essentials will likely be among the first to vanish from shelves in the coming weeks. Why? Because the production of these items is concentrated in just 3 regions globally, and all 3 are facing severe transportation issues starting next month. One of the largest processing plants in Idaho is even shutting down for maintenance on May 3rd. The timing couldn't be worse. Now, before you roll your eyes at the idea of powdered milk, hear me out. This isn't the stuff from your childhood. The new microfiltered versions, like Augustin Farms Morning Moo, taste almost exactly like fresh milk. No joke. I gave it to my super picky 8-year-old in a blind taste test, and she picked the powdered version over real milk. They've nailed it with fat encapsulation tech that gives it that rich, creamy texture. Hand-powdered eggs. Forget everything you think you know. The new ones from Ova Easy have completely changed the game. 1 small container equals 40 real eggs and stays fresh for up to 7 years unopened. 7 years of breakfast security, just sitting there, waiting. And they're not just for scrambling. I made a quiche last week using powdered eggs, and my husband couldn't tell the difference. They even work perfectly in baking because they've managed to preserve the protein structure. But here's where most people mess up. They stop at milk and eggs. The real preppers? They're now stocking powdered butter alternatives, too. A new product called Peak Refuel's butter powder hit the market just 3 months ago, and it's already back-ordered at major suppliers. I used it to make chocolate chip cookies for my daughter's bake sale, and they disappeared in minutes. Best part? It's shelf-stable for up to 5 years and needs no refrigeration. Look, I'm not trying to scare you, but when people catch wind of a shortage, these powdered essentials disappear in hours. And when they're gone, they're gone. I'll never forget February 2023, when that brutal winter storm hit Texas. Powdered milk was going for $45 a container on local apps. Don't put yourself or your family in that position. Here's a pro tip most people miss. Don't just stash these and forget them. Start using them now so you know how they work. Add powdered milk to your smoothies. Try powdered eggs in your baking. You'll be way ahead of the curve when it counts. Up next, item 6. The shelf-stable secret weapon that most people forget, and trust me, it could completely transform your emergency meal planning. Here's something most people never think about. Families who actually practice using their emergency supplies are 74% more likely to stay properly nourished during real emergencies. That's a huge difference. I keep a small container of each powdered essential in my daily pantry and store the rest in a sealed bin in deeper storage. Why? Because when it counts, you don't want to be learning how to use powdered eggs for the first time under stress. And if you're worried about nutrition, don't be. The latest versions of these powdered products are fortified with essential vitamins like D and B12, and in some cases, they even beat the real thing. No joke, nutritionist Dr. Sarah Peaton released a study just last month showing that high-quality powdered milk actually provided more consistent vitamin D levels than many of the big brand fresh milks at the grocery store. Pretty wild, right? But here's the part nobody talks about. These powdered essentials are absolute game changers for camping and travel, too. I brought some on a camping trip last summer, and while everyone else was crunching on dry granola bars, I was cooking up fluffy scrambled eggs on a tiny camp stove. Karen from the next campsite even came over asking, "Wait, where did you get eggs out here?" Who's the prepared one now, Karen? Look, don't wait until May 4th to suddenly realize you need this stuff. It may not seem urgent right now, but if things go south next month, these powdered essentials could be the difference between thriving and barely surviving. So here's my advice. Stock at least a 1-month supply per person. That means about 2 pounds of powdered milk and 1 pound of powdered eggs per person. It's a small investment for peace of mind. And believe me, your future self will be glad you did it. Now let's talk. Item 6. Ready-to-eat meals, and why what I saw at 3 Walmarts last weekend should be a massive red flag for all of us. The ready-to-eat meals my sister had stocked, they literally saved her family. When a freak ice storm knocked out power in Denver last winter, roads were iced over, restaurants were closed, and her family couldn't risk driving. But because she'd prepped ahead with shelf-stable meals, especially those backpackers' pantry packs that only need cold water, they didn't have to risk a thing. She told me those meals were absolute lifesavers. I ordered some the same night she told me. But here's what really worries me. Most people never think about their specific health needs during an emergency. If you're diabetic, gluten sensitive, or allergic to dairy, you can't afford to gamble when things go south. Emergency is not the time to discover you've got nothing safe to eat. Luckily, companies like Alpine Air and ReadyWise now offer specialized meal kits. Keto, gluten-free, dairy-free, low sodium, even vegetarian. And I've personally tested the vegetarian meals. They're surprisingly good. Gone are the days of cardboard tasting survival food. Now let's talk price, because this part shocked me. Specialty emergency retailers are already jacking prices up 30 to 40% ahead of May. But major stores? They haven't caught up yet. For example, Costco's Nutri-Store 1-month supply kit that was going for $899 last year, it's currently marked down to $699, which